3, 2, 1, Moin und Hallo Tadatosch, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Reaction. Wir gucken heute Using Numbers to Find the Greatest Individual Season in NBA History von Jimmy Highroller. Sehr, sehr cooler Typ, nutzt sehr, sehr viele Datensätze und also was für Bass ist schön. Wir gucken uns das an, ich hab's schon gesehen. Ich fand das so mein Kopf ist explodiert. Musste ich einfach
Blobbing.
Richtig. Ganz kurz, ein Guess von dir, was glaubst du, wer hatte die statistisch gesehen beste Season in der Geschichte der NBA?
Es muss ja irgendwie ein Will Chamberlain gewesen sein. Oder halt ein MJ. Oder halt irgendein random Dude. LeBron wäre jetzt zu einfach. Wahrscheinlich ist es irgendeiner, ein Drechsler.
Okay, gut. Wir gucken mal, let's go.
If I asked you throughout NBA history who had the best individual season and what year did it take place, what would your answer be? Can a season truly be great if a player doesn't lead their team to a championship? What about empty stats or years where players put together incredible seasons but didn't walk away with the MVP? Just like many other fans of the game, I've always wondered who truly had the greatest season in NBA history. If we were to somehow add up all the things that a player did throughout a season, their impact and value, and condense all of it into one number, some sort of value or greatness score, then we could determine who had the best season of all time. And so that's what I did. A formula to decide who had the best individual season in NBA history. And not only did I find that season, but it was so great that no other season comes even close.
Vor allem überleg mal, er muss sich jetzt eine Formel ausdenken, um einen Score zu generieren, ne? Und dann musst du auch noch jede einzelne Saison durchgehen von jedem Spieler.
Der Mann ist hobbylos. Nein, das ist sein Hobby. Also geil. Also, ich
liebe
solche Menschen.
Ich wollte es gerade sagen, ich liebe ihn. Es ist so geil.
Today's video is brought to you by
solche Menschen
new NBA season is upon us.
Weil ich das nie könnte.
Wir gönnen ihn natürlich sein Tag. Auch wenn es uns wahrscheinlich nichts bringt.
Check this out. Just download the SeatGeek app and use the promo code Jimmy to get $20 off your first order. SeatGeek makes buying tickets easier than ever before with the rating system that lets you know which tickets are a good deal and which tickets are a bad deal. If it's green, that's a banger. You're getting a good deal there. Red, not so much. I've been using SeatGeek for years. It's simple, it's easy, and it's a surefire way to get the best deal for your tickets. Whether it's a concert, basketball game, football, baseball, festival, SeatGeek's got it all. Download the app, use promo code Jimmy, and get $20 off your first order today.
Da steht aber nicht Jimmy.
Muss ich ganz kurz überlegen, ich glaube, der Typ ist irgendwie nicht Anfang 20, aber er ist definitiv so Mitte 20.
Natürlich ist er das. Chase Genius Project.
With the 2023 NBA season going completely off the rails with big games, huge numbers, and record-breaking performances every other night, I had to gather myself and put all of this madness into context. How historic are these seasons really? Where do the individual performances of this season rank among the greatest season performances in NBA history? Well, in order to answer this question, I had to create a basic formula that factors in everything a player does on an individual level throughout a season. But first, I had to determine what numbers and awards actually matter and which ones don't. For example, winning the MVP is the greatest individual award a player can win, but there have been countless amazing seasons in which players did not win the award. So we can't use this as a metric to measure how great an individual season really was. I also had to exclude statistics that were heavily skewed by team performance, like win totals or even stats like offensive and defensive rating. We are, after all, looking for the best individual season. So after much deliberation, I narrowed down the criteria for the best season ever to these 9 factors.
Pause. Danke. Also, Defensive Player of the Year, 10 points. Points per game plus rebounds plus assists. Okay. All Defensive Team Selection, ja. Win Shares. Ja. Player Efficiency Rating. Wie ist das definiert? Da wäre ich schon raus. Box plus minus.
PER ist, glaube ich, erst seit ein paar Jahren drin. Wie das genau berechnet wird, weiß ich nicht. Es ist halt, wie effektiv ist er, oder wie effektiv ist das Team, wenn er auf dem Spielfeld ist? Ich glaube, so wird das irgendwie beschrieben.
Ja, schon, aber wodurch du das ermitteln kannst, du Zahlen. Ja. Egal. So, Value over Replacement. Ja. League Leader in Points, Rebounds oder Assists. Oh ja, da ist ein LeBron weit vorne. All-Star Game MVP. Ja, alles coole, valide Punkte, verstehe ich. Wenn das alles
Points,
irgendwie mixt
rebounds,
und
and
so.
assists. If a player was selected to an all-defensive team, if a player won Defensive Player of the Year, if they led the league in one of the 3 major statistics, player efficiency rating, win shares, box plus minus, value over replacement, and just to spice things up, All-Star
Die
Game
Excel-Tabelle, die der Mensch
MVP. The
sich dafür
total
macht.
number that a player
Ja.
achieves from these 9 measures.
Ich sage dir, der macht bei Excel-Meisterschaften alle platt.
Ja.
Excel Esports, Alter, ich sage euch, wirklich.
Tricks is their season score. The higher the score, the greater the season. And before we get started, I want to point out a few things. As I stated before, I did not factor in MVPs in this experiment because there's just been far too many incredible seasons where players were not crowned the most valuable player. Like in 1989, when Michael Jordan clearly had the best season that year, but Magic Johnson won the MVP. Another thing to keep in mind here is that most statistics that are available today have only been around since 1975. So any great season that took place in the early 70s and 60s was excluded from this experiment, which actually shouldn't even be a problem since a lot of NBA fans act like those seasons never even happened anyways.
Naja, es
Another
war halt auch
major
eine wilde
factor
Zeit,
that I
ne?
left out was
Wie gesagt,
postseason
wild.
success.
Was, 100 Punkte? Ist mir egal.
Wie war das noch in den einen Film? Ihr seid schwarz, die sind weiß. Das ist nicht Eishockey.
Und
Wenn
heute haben wir Luca.
Ja. Das heißt, wenn wir nur an Gott glauben, an Gott, er hat seinen Teil getan. Er hat euch schwarz, egal.
And I know this will be a controversial decision, but in order to even make it deep into the playoffs, a great player still needs a solid supporting cast, or else he has no real shot to win it all. An obvious example of this is Nikola Jokic last season with the Nuggets. One of the best individual seasons of all time, just to be knocked out of the first round of the playoffs in a gentleman's sweep. Despite what a player did or did not accomplish throughout a season, we are looking for the best season from a player who had the biggest impact on the court game after game. And after spending countless, mind-numbing, migraine-inducing hours searching through hundreds of seasons from any and every player who even had a shot at putting together an all-time year, I have found the single greatest individual season in NBA history. And it's a season that was so good, no other season by any other player comes even close. But I want to give some perspective on these season scores and what a good season looks like, what a great season looks like, and what an all-time season looks like. Back in 2018, LeBron James finished second in MVP voting and had one of the most complete all-around seasons of his career. In hindsight, some fans even believe he should have won the MVP that season. And according to our metric, that year LeBron James had a season score of 109.7. This is a great season by any standard, nearly an all-time season. But James Harden rightfully took home the MVP with a season score of 112.4. In 2015, Steph Curry won his first league MVP and put together one of the most memorable seasons in recent NBA history. That year, his season score was 97.3. In 2006, Kobe Bryant had statistically the best season of his career and achieved a season score of 119.1.
Wow.
And yet, Steve Nash won the MVP that season with a season score of just 84.
Aber da muss man zu sagen, das ist halt der Season Score, den hat er sich halt jetzt, den rechnet er halt zusammen. So, trotzdem ist das schon, krass.
Du, trotzdem, das muss man sich ja gegenüberstellen. Eben, das Wort krass, ne, beschreibt es in Zügen. Es ist wild. Es ist extrem wild. Schau dir an, er hat basically nur in einem Wert, ne, das abgeschnitten. Assists. Wichtiger Wert, nicht falsch verstehen. Echt guter, wichtiger Wert. Und da hat er ihn echt auch geplättet. Aber alles andere, bitch, please.
Ja. Es ist
0.1. But these numbers are all relative. A season score of 20 is about league average. A score of about 45 is what you would find in a quality starter. A season score of about 65 is an all-star level season, and a season score of 85 is an all-NBA level season. And once a player gets into the triple digits, a season score of 100 or more, they are well on pace to earning an MVP. But even a score of 100 is nowhere near what a player must accomplish to even crack a top 50 season of all time. Because the 50th greatest individual season came from James Harden in 2018 when he piled up a season score of 112.4. In fact, here's a chart of the top 50 individual seasons in NBA history according to our season score metric. The first 3
Wie lange auch das dauert, immer diese Tabellen zu erstellen, ne? In dem Video.
Ja.
Seasons to crack the top 50 all came from James Harden in just a 4-year span between 2017 and 2020. Michael Jordan was so good, so early in his career, that even his rookie season made the list as the 42nd best individual season of all time. Tracy McGrady put together his best season in 2003 with a season score of 115.3. Hakeem's 1994 campaign lands at the 35th spot of all time, and just above him, you'll find Steph's unanimous MVP season in 2016. Nikola Jokic achieved a career-high season score last season with a total of 120.3 points, the 23rd best individual season of all time. But Giannis actually scored just slightly higher than Jokic did last season with a season score of 120.9. Russell Westbrook's MVP year is the 17th best individual season of all time and easily the best season of his career. Keep going up and we'll find the best seasons from some of the greatest players of all time. Dwayne Wade in 2009, KG in 2004.
Ja, was? Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, der ist doch so oft, ne?
Ja.
Das ist krass.
Kareem in 76. In 2020, Giannis put together one of the greatest seasons ever with a season score of 129.8. Just behind LeBron's 2009 season, which turns out to be the best individual season of his career, where he earned a season score of 130.2. And after this mark, we enter the Michael Jordan zone, where it's a whole lot of MJ reeling off some of the best individual seasons of all time, year after year. And right at the top are the 3 best individual seasons of all time. David Robinson's criminally underrated 1994 season, Shaq's masterpiece in the 2000 NBA season, and Michael Jordan's 1989 season that earned him a season score of 137.7. Hold up. There's one season missing here.
Ich bin gespannt.
There it is. Michael Jordan's 1988 regular
Das war der Moment, wo ich gesagt habe, alles klar, das müssen wir uns mal eben kurz zusammen angucken.
Okay.
154.
Alles klar.
Wusste nicht, Entschuldigung.
Season. Widely regarded as the greatest of all time. And that's because it is. With a season score of 154.8, Jordan's 1988 campaign is the greatest individual season in NBA history. And it's not even remotely close. But I want to take a deeper look at these results because they reveal some interesting things about what we know and what we thought we knew. Some all-time legends that didn't even have a single season that made the top 50 list include Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley, Dirk Nowitzki, and many more. On the other hand, there have been a handful of players that have had multiple seasons that cracked the top 50. These players include Michael Jordan with 11 top 50 seasons.
Ich möchte ganz kurz sagen, 11 Seasons von 13, die er gespielt hat. Und die 2 mit den Wizards zählt nicht.
Stimmt! Wäre mir gar nicht aufgefallen, aber ja.
Es ist so dumm. Das heißt, alle 11 Seasons, bis er das zweite Mal retired hat, jede Season ist einfach da drin.
Crazy.
Das dir nicht ausdenken. Und sein schlechtester Score ist einfach 113.
Der immer noch besser ist als Stephs bester.
Es ist
muss
bodenlos.
halt leider zugeben.
Of all time, LeBron James with 5, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and David Robinson with 4 apiece, Kareem and Garnett with 3, and Hakeem, Kobe, Jokic, Shaq, and Chris Paul, all with 2 top 50 seasons each. But the most interesting thing that these numbers reveal is that the second best individual season in NBA history didn't even earn an MVP. Michael Jordan's 1989 season ranks 2nd all-time among season scores, and somehow he still finished 2nd in MVP voting that season behind Magic Johnson.
Random, ne?
Das Foto habe ich dir geschickt und habe gesagt, hier ist schon ein Sneak Peek auf das, was wir uns angucken.
Ja.
Earned a season score of 103.9. Still a great score, but nowhere near the season Michael had. And if you take a look at their numbers throughout that season, it's clear that a robbery took place here. Same thing happened in 1990 when Michael Jordan put up the 5th highest season score in NBA history and finished not 2nd, but 3rd in MVP voting behind Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley. And
Es ist
again,
halt so
the numbers
schmutzig.
are clear as day. This MVP should have gone to Michael, and it's not even close. Now, the idea that Michael Jordan and LeBron James should have probably won more MVPs throughout their careers becomes even more glaring through the lens of this season score metric. But of all the seasons that made an appearance on this list, only the 2009 season features 3 players who all put up top 50 seasons of all time. That year, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Paul all not only had historically great seasons, all 3 of them put up top 25 seasons in NBA history.
Auch ein
As I spoke
Legendenteam,
about
was soll ich
before,
sagen?
in most seasons, a game score of 100 will give a player a real shot at winning the league MVP.
LeBron weiß schon, warum
CP3,
da
D-Wade,
zu dem
and
Heat gegangen
LeBron
ist.
all had season scores of over 120. But with
Ja,
this
ja.
NBA season being flooded with all-time talent and incredible performances every single night, are there any players that are putting together seasons this year that would crack this all-time list? We'll have to make a couple estimations here because some stats within our metric like VORP and win shares are cumulative stats. But at their current pace, here are the projected season scores for the best players in the NBA this
Ja,
season,
Luka,
with the
hätte ich auch
top 5
gesagt.
season scores coming from Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum. And if a season
is
score of
gut, oder?
100
Ja.
warrants a real shot at the MVP award, then there are currently six players who are all having an MVP caliber season. But in
Ja,
terms
gut,
of
Steph kannst
cracking
du
the
wieder
top
rausziehen.
50 list,
Ja.
only Luka
Gedreht wurde vor
Doncic and
Verletzung?
Nikola
Okay.
Jokic are on pace to making the cut. In fact, Luka is on pace to racking up a season score of 123.1, which would earn him the 15th best individual season of all time, right behind LeBron's 2013 season. And Nikola Jokic is on pace to having a season score of 116.4, which would land him at the 38th spot all time. And after gathering
Echt so ein
data
großer
from
Spread
hundreds of
irgendwie, ne?
seasons of dozens of players, I got to thinking about peaks. Who was the best when they were at their best? Some players have maybe 1 or 2 seasons that stand far above any other year they've put together, like Tracy McGrady in 2003 or Russell Westbrook in 2017, while other players
so eine Maschine,
completely
der
control
Kerl.
the game on an individual level season after season. So here is a chart of NBA legends and the combined season scores of the best 5-year stretch of their career. For example, Isaiah Thomas's best 5-year stretch came between 1984 and 1988, where his total season scores throughout those years was 379.3. Damian Lillard's run from 2017 to 2021 earned him a total of 438.9. Just above Magic Johnson and Moses Malone is Karl Malone, who is the first player on this chart to crack
God.
500. Nikola Jokic is currently in his best 5-year stretch and has a total score of 508.8. But this number will jump much higher after this season, somewhere around the 540 range. Kobe, Hakeem, and Bird all had similarly great primes in the NBA, ranging from 514 to 518. Tim Duncan is sandwiched right between Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Our first big jump occurs with James Harden's run between 2016 and 2020. And after these marks, we get into the very best individual runs in NBA history. Shaq in the early 2000s, a young Kareem, a mind-boggling 5-year
Kareem.
individual stretch from David Robinson in the mid-90s, Giannis's current historic run dating back to 2018, and LeBron James at his absolute peak from 2008 to 2012. Just 5 points shy of cracking the 600 mark. Possibly the greatest individual prime of all time. Well, at least it would have been if Michael Jordan didn't exist. Because from 1988 to 1992, MJ rattled off 5 of the top 16 individual seasons of all time. By far, the greatest stretch of seasons we've ever seen from any player.
Give it a
With a
minute.
prime total score of 680.9.
Verdammt, der
Leaving him in a
Cheatcode.
league of his own,
Der muss doch jetzt bei
even
sich
amongst
zu
the
Hause auch
greatest
hocken,
players in
sich das Ding
NBA
ansehen
history.
und die Hand muss zum Penis gehen.
Mindestens.
Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time.
Schon crazy.
Du kannst es dir nicht ausdenken, dass er so weit über allen anderen steht.
Sehr, sehr crazy. Und das sind halt auch so viele Werte, ne, die sehr subjektiv sind und die er sich jetzt nicht aus den Fingern gesogen hat. Die haben ja einen validen Wert, wie gesagt, für einen Basketballspieler, aber es ist halt schon nicht offiziell.
Richtig. In dem Sinne, haut rein, bis zum nächsten Mal, lasst euch gut gehen. Ciao, ciao.